Bread is one of the oldest foods in the world. Really old. I'm talking 10,000 years old. The Egyptians, they paid people in loaves. The Romans built public bakeries, so survival was guaranteed. In Russia, mothers kept their sour starters alive for generations. In Poland, it was sakwas. In Spain, masa madre. Think of it like fire before flint. You guarded it, you shared it, because if it died out, you couldn't just start over. Hey, hoi, welcome to the Dutch door. Kom maar in. Ga je mee? In Europe, women lined up daily for fresh bread. French baguettes, Italian focaccia, and German rye. Bread wasn't just food, it was culture. It was the forerunner of Instagram, a chance to gossip with the locals. Across the ocean, though, something very different happened. In North America, bread went through kind of a rebirth, but not the good kind. Factories took over, additives stretched the dough, preservatives kept it soft for weeks, and suddenly, bread wasn't culture anymore. It was a commodity, a product on a shelf, wrapped in plastic, sliced and stacked. How did a loaf that meant survival for Egyptians and community for Europeans turn into something disposable? That's the story we need to tell. My father wasn't just any baker from Amsterdam. He trained at Wageningen, the agricultural university in the Netherlands, where he learned the science of fermentation, the discipline of timing, and the importance of knowing exactly what was in his flour, how much protein, what kind of strength, and how it would shape the bread. 4 years, a master baker's degree. His gift was forecasting. He could read demand without spreadsheets and bake exactly what a neighborhood needed. The result was simple. Very little bread went to waste. And what little was left became dubbel gebakken. Leftover bread baked a second time, double. Crusty on the outside and soft on the inside. He sold them at the same price, not discounted, but as a specialty. That kind of reuse was thrift. It was flavor and smart marketing. And baking was in our family. Opa, my grandfather, was a baker in Amsterdam too. He owned a bakery during the war when the Germans controlled the flour supply. He would receive 10 sacks of 40 kilos each, and the Germans expected a fixed number of loaves in return, but he could always stretch the flour further, producing a few extra loaves. Those loaves could have fetched a fortune on the black market, but he didn't sell them. He handed them to the church, to families with nothing. That kind of thrift, stretching every sack, every crumb, was born a necessity. It left a mark. But across the ocean, in North America, the story went differently. Their abundance set the tone. Wheat was cheap, land was endless, and the culture moved toward bigger batches, longer supply chains, and eventually waste. To see how that happened, we need to go back to where bread in North America first began to change. Immigrants brought their bread with them. Italian, German, Dutch, French, thick crusts, dense crumb, the real stuff. But in North America, bread got reshaped. The mill stripped out the bran and the wheat germ, left behind this pale flour that made bread softer, quicker to chew, easier to mass produce, and cheaper to sell. Now, white bread had always been a status thing. The whiter the loaf, the higher the status. And the reason was simple. You needed more wheat to make a kilo of white flour because the bran and the germ were thrown away. All that food, all that nutrition, sifted out just to get a paler crumb. On top of that, it was slow. Millers ground the grain on big stone wheels. Then the flour had to be shaken through cloth sieves again and again until it looked clean enough. It took time, it took people, and it took a lot of grain. That's why only the wealthy could afford it. White bread wasn't just bread. It was a way to show you had money. Then, in the 1800s, everything flipped. Roller mills showed up. Instead of heavy stones turned by hand or by animals, you had steel rollers lined up in stages, each one cracking the grain a little finer and peeling the bran away clean. What used to take teams of people grinding and sifting was now done by machines running on steam. Pure white flour poured out by the ton, fast and cheap. Overnight, what had been a luxury for the rich became everyday food. Bread lost its shine, it lost its soul. And cheap bread meant surplus was baked into the system. Shelves had to look full. Factories ran ahead of demand. It was always safer to make too much than risk someone seeing empty space. If it didn't sell today, it got marked down tomorrow or tossed into the garbage. Waste wasn't an accident, it was policy. But yet the deeper split is culture. You know, Dickens, Scrooge haunted by ghosts of poverty and thrift. For Europe, saving scraps wasn't a virtue, it was just life. Normal winters were long, wages barely covered bread and coal, families stretched every crust into soup. Then the extreme World War II hunger winter of 1945. My grandfather still talked about it years later. North America told a different story. A land of plenty, endless wheat, open horizons. Bread could be wasted because more was always coming. Scarcity didn't haunt memory, so convenience became the habit. Even our art showed the difference. Van Gogh in America, Van Gogh, we call him in our native country, the Netherlands, starved in Europe, painting wheat he couldn't even afford to eat. Meanwhile, across the ocean, the dream was staking out land and harvesting plenty. Two ways of valuing food, and bread was the clearest mirror. And here's where my dad saw that North American culture firsthand. He took a job at Venice Bakery. Great name, right? But this wasn't Venice, Italy. This was North Vancouver, Canada. Giant factory, bread rolling off conveyors, made by the clock. Waste wasn't a mistake, it was baked right into the system. Venice guaranteed its clients a partial or full refund for unsold bread. That bread wasn't given a second life. It was broken down and balled up, pressed into today's dough. Reconstituted, not renewed. Industry called it efficient. My father called it garbage. And the part that really drove him crazy? If the bell rang for a break and the buns had 2 minutes left in the oven, workers just walked away, let them burn. My dad would sometimes pull them out before they blackened, but that broke the unspoken union kind of rule. Don't interfere, let it burn, let it become waste. To him, a baker who built his own shops from scratch, that was sacrilege. Now, to get bread working at that scale, something else had to change. The bread had to last. Not hours, days. Truck rides, supermarket shelves, and that's where chemistry came in. Calcium propionate to stop the mold, potassium sorbate to slow yeast, emulsifiers like datum to hold water and keep loaves fluffy, oxidizers to tighten gluten, preservatives to stretch the shelf life. All legal, all approved, all there for one reason, to keep bread soft long enough to ship, stack, and sell. And here's the thing, this isn't just about bread. Once you start engineering food for warehouses, you're engineering side effects too. Preservatives that change rivers, emulsifiers that might be messing with your gut microbes. Nothing instantly deadly, but little signals that convenience leaves footprints we don't always see. It seeps into systems, into water, and into us. But then my dad met Bernie, a German baker who escaped East Germany during the Cold War years, wedged in a secret compartment under a car. He and Bernie perfected sourdough together, inventing new recipes that foreshadowed today's artisan bread craze. Olive and roasted garlic loaves, melanzana with cracked black pepper. My father's bakery in Amsterdam specialized in yeasted hearth bread and pan loaves. Sour wasn't strange to him, only something to experiment with. He carried it home in a bucket on Sundays, his day off, because the starter needed daily rejuvenation. It was folded into new dough, stretched into forever, and together they created German rye, crusty loaves, the signs of bubbles. Now, it would be easy to think Europe kept its bread pure. The corner bakeries, the daily loaves, the crust you could hear crack, and yes, that's still there. But Europe has moved forward too, though not always in the way people imagine. The factories came here as well, plastic-wrapped sliced loaves, soft, squishy, built for shelf life. The difference is that the EU is far stricter. Fewer additives are allowed in the bread, And unsold loaves can't just be thrown away. They must be reused, recycled, or donated. Europe as a whole leaned towards Bernie's lesson. What my grandfather once did by hand is now scaled up by policy. Unsold bread shredded, dried, milled back into flour, fermented into new doughs with better aroma, brewed into beer, even distilled into ethanol, or turned into pasta, crumbs, or animal feed. In France, it took a scandal to shift things. Supermarkets were caught pouring bleach into dumpsters, deliberately destroying edible food. The footage went viral. By 2016, France passed a law banning supermarkets from throwing away unsold food, bread included. They must donate or reuse it, or face fines up to €70,000. Enforcement is not a joke. Now the EU sets the framework too. Stores and bakeries have contracts with recycling or composting partners. Apps like Too Good To Go thrive. NGOs like Feedback EU and Foodwin audit the numbers. Under the Waste Framework Directive, member states have to actually measure food waste. Trucks of unsold bread are weighed, reports are filed, and cheating can drag you before the European Court of Auditors. But let's not paint Europe as one single model of efficiency. Northern Europe runs a pretty tight ship. Germany landfills less than 1% of municipal waste. The Netherlands hovers around 2.5%, while Italy trails far behind with 20%. Spain a shocking 50%. Northern Europe feels bulletproof, Southern Europe still catching up. Now cross the Atlantic, and the contrast gets even sharper. North America has little of this loop. Some charities collect leftovers, but kind of patchily and mostly at local scale. Industrial recycling is almost absent. Bread that doesn't sell is usually written off, bagged up, and tossed. Cheap wheat, vast farmland, long supply chains, and weak regulation make dumping the easiest option. So there's little incentive to build recovery systems. The logic is simple. When the raw ingredients are cheap and plentiful, it's easier to waste than to reuse. The cost is pushed downstream. Loaves in landfills don't just disappear, they decompose into methane, a greenhouse gas far more powerful than carbon dioxide. And when bread is full of preservatives and stabilizers, mold inhibitors, the breakdown is even messier, adding chemicals into that mix. Where Europe has slowly built a culture and a framework of reuse, North America has built a pipeline to the dump. And now here we are, back where we started. In Canada, people are chasing real bread again, just flour, water, salt. Now it's called artisan, and it's a luxury. $10 a loaf isn't unusual. Europeans can't believe it. In Spain, a masa madre bread is 49 cents. In France, a baguette is a couple of euro. Bread is still daily food here. In North America, it's turned into a marketing ripoff. Think about that arc. White bread once meant status, then industry made it cheap and common. Now artisan sourdough is back to elite. That circle is closed. So maybe the greatest thing since sliced bread wasn't sliced bread at all. Maybe it's realizing that modern doesn't always mean better for taste or for health. And bread is just one story. Next time we're talking beer, because Heineken has a dirty little secret, one that turned waste into design. It's the smartest trash story you've never heard.